So I forced myself to do a vision board, which I thought was the dumbest thing I
Yeah.
had ever heard of.
The hustle and bustle of day-to-day living kind of makes you stupid sometimes. You're just like,
I have some crazy hot rumor gossipy stuff, y'all, but it's really good stuff that we all need to hear right now.
but hey, it's coming up on the end of the year. You guys needed it, so you're welcome. Welcome to the $1 Million Sellers Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Chouquette. Today we've got Lesley on the show with Riverbend. What's up, Lesley? Good to chat with you. Hope everything's going well on your end.
Hey, Nick, so excited to be here. It's always good to be in the presence of my MDS friends.
Yeah, it's a great community, and we're glad you're a part of it too. And I'm excited to bring you on the show here and talk about some things that you're seeing going on in the industry on your end that I think only you get a unique perspective of. But yeah, I just want to give you a chance to introduce yourself as well and talk a little bit about you. I know you're the co-founder of Riverbend, and that's how a lot of the guys in MDS will know about you. But you've also got a new book coming out as well, and it's called the Amazon Incubator, Grow Your Business or Hatch a New One. And you said that that's going to be going more towards like a newer audience, right?
Absolutely. So the book is really for newer sellers, and you MDS folks are all really smart. In fact, MDS events are the most challenging events I ever attend because you ask me the hardest questions for reals. So this really isn't a book for your audience, but I know you folks have friends who ask you about selling on Amazon. So if you would consider sending them a link to the book, I'd appreciate it. It's called The Amazon Incubator. You could find it at theamazonincubator.com. And it's actually selling at all the major bookstores. We've got links to all of the different bookstores. But the principle behind it, y'all know that I am someone who can tell every horror story that ever existed about Amazon. I could probably for 24 hours straight tell you all the bad things about selling on Amazon. And yet, I still believe Amazon is the greatest small business incubator in the history of the world. It just is. But selling on Amazon is so much harder than it was back in 2010 when I started. And it was just the Wild West, and you could throw up any product that you found at a liquidation grocery store and make money. So you've really got to have a plan, have a real business plan from the beginning, treat it like an honest to God business, and then start to outsource as quickly as you can if you want to make money and not be tied to it like some ball and chain. So that's really what the book is. It's a basic blueprint for people who don't want to go the Lamborghini route, like everything is a drop shipping scam or a do it my way, my formula, give me $10,000 and you're going to have a Rolex and a Lamborghini and never work. This is
Right.
really this is a much more realistic, sustainable business plan, if you will. And if someone walks through the book, they can very simply put together an Amazon business plan and get going.
Nice. I like it because I agree with you, Lesley. I still think it's a good opportunity. Definitely gotten harder. But back in the day, it was like stupid easy, right? Like there was
Yes.
this period of time where you could screw up every day on Amazon and like make money still. And then I think around like 2017, it like exponentially started to get harder. But I even remember seeing it getting harder, my first year in 2015 when I started, like as things moved on. So I think it's great and probably a good read for just about anyone because I've learned while people in MDS are very smart, we all have our own ways of like how we got to where we are. And we all have a lot of like bad habits probably or did at one point in time that we really need to like work through in order to get where we want to get. And a part of that is just really having like some foundational, like basic principles going on in your business. Because sometimes if you try to go advanced without like hitting that foundational principle, you can't really have that impact that you think it would because you're missing like all this down here. So that's kind of been the piece that I've learned as I've tried to grow multiple businesses on Amazon and have like a real, what I would call like a real business, right? Not just an Amazon store.
Well, and that's really the goal of the book, that you have a real honest to gosh business. when you're finished, instead of just flipping products and then realizing in December you didn't make money the whole year.
Right. Right.
And the part of the book I'm actually most proud of is helping people to walk through what kind of seller they want to be. I have these different avatars for different sellers of, I want to be the big brand ambassador, or I want to be the hustler. I have 7 different avatars to walk through and really think about which one of those am I, which one of those fits my lifestyle. Talk about goals. It's so hard when you get in the hustle every day to
Yeah.
think about goals. Is this really what I want to be? Is this how I want to work? How many jobs or businesses do I want to have? What are my family goals? What are my financial goals long term? And think more holistically. And a lot of that is really because of the sellers that I work with. So many of them are frantic and frazzled and
Yeah.
upset when a problem happens. And also, a lot of them have gotten into some of these scammier business models that have put their whole future at risk. So if you step back and do that planning, you can keep away from the traction of the get rich quick that we all know doesn't really happen anymore on Amazon.
Yeah, I tell you what, that's good info. It's funny. I was just on a call this morning with my executive coach. And it's funny because, you're talking about your book being more geared towards newer sellers, but like one big thing she talked about was our strategic planning, because we're preparing for our annual planning next year, is how we've got to have regular meetings where we're talking about our strategic plans, but not during a regular meeting where we're dealing with issues coming up during the week. So, right, we have a level 10 meeting because we do a little bit of like EOS style stuff to deal with week to week issues coming up. And then we obviously have like quarterly and annual planning. But we didn't really have a regular cadence set for those more strategic meetings. And just to make sure, like, hey, are we doing what we said we really want to do? Are we really working towards our goal, aligned with our company values, stuff like that? Because you're so right. Like, it's so easy to lose sight of that stuff when you're dealing with the day to day.
Well, and not to get all touchy feely on you because I'm very down to earth and very grounded. And so sometimes when you talk about envisioning what you really want, that's actually hard for me. And I
Yeah.
think that's hard for a lot of entrepreneurs because I'm exactly what you were just saying. It can't be part of that other meeting where you're checking off the problems and you're checking off the to-dos. It's got to be a separate, and you almost need, and part of the book talks about almost having a meeting with yourself. So I forced myself to do a vision board, which I thought was the dumbest thing I had
Yeah.
ever heard of. And I made myself do it because a couple of friends of mine were super into it. So my vision board is so different from a lot of my friends. They've got, and there's nothing wrong with anyone's preferences, but they've got like their super hot car, and they've got, I've got a couple ladies who they've got like all these fashionable clothes. Just not my thing. Mine is like time with my family, working with the nonprofits that we work with, going on a cool vacation. Those are my things. And then in business goals too, actually making myself do this goofy vision board.
Yeah.
Wow, it really clarified things for me. And when I was done, I was like, why was I so resistant?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's good stuff to talk to. And I think I want to dig into it a little bit more because I have some practices on my end. And I think a lot of members will get some value out of it as well. And hopefully some of the newbie sellers also. But I know we've got some good Amazon stuff to talk to, and we're going to get to that as well. So you guys definitely hang around for that. But I did a vision board this week too. So it's just funny. I feel like there's a lot of coincidences happening in this conversation right now. And I have a big whiteboard. So like I'm in my office right now, right over in the other room in our house is a big giant whiteboard. And last year, us and all the kids wrote like kind of like annual goals, but more just like a vision, like where do we want to be, this time, right around this time now. So it's super interesting to see that. And it's more impactful then from the personal perspective when you look at a personal goal that you set for yourself a year ago. And it's like, okay, did I actually do this? Because you think about the type of mindset you were in at that time when you put the energy into making that goal is probably pretty important. You probably like dug pretty deep, and you're like, man, this really represents like a strong part of myself that I really want to like cultivate and bring forward next year. I had like some fitness stuff on there. I want to be able to do a backflip. I didn't get there yet, but I feel like I'm on track.
Cool.
And then the kids, just like our 1 year old, right? Like him being able to say a couple words or being able to walk is up there. And then we've got a bunch of other stuff up there from the kids as well. But yeah, you really do have to separate that time because it's an important thing to do, and you want to be in the right state of mind to be able to do that. And I think it's like a big skill, and if you can harness that skill and be aware of it, then you can do some pretty cool stuff from your personal life and business life.
Well, and I love that you brought up personal and business because a problem that I have, that I know probably everyone listening to this has, is you get so focused on the work and you forget why you're doing the work. So if I ask you why, you can tell me, but are you actually aligning your time that way? And
Yeah.
so there's a lot in the book about that kind of planning and alignment, but the vision board actually helped me with that too, because I decided I'm not good at being spontaneous, and I'm not good at really focusing on, okay, what's something really cool I can do with my kids. My last kid's almost out of the house. He's only got 2.5 more years with us. I want to spend that time. And so
Yeah.
I started putting money in an account every month so that when something cool came up, I would have the money sitting there and there'd be no guilt or weirdness. So I just bought Sugar Bowl tickets because
Nice.
we're big Longhorn fans, and they got in the Sugar Bowl, and I bought those tickets and they were ludicrously expensive, and it was only because I had the money sitting in that account that was like, my this is when something comes up and I really know it's the right thing to do, that's going to make the family happy and we're going to bond.
Yeah.
Another thing, you mentioned fitness. My younger one has goals for his junior and senior year in high school about starting on the football team, how many impact plays he wants to have per game. He's a nose guard, so it's all about defense and quickness. And he's actually allowing me, because remember, 16-year-old boy, we're doing workouts together right now,
Nice.
because we're doing things that are all like Pilates and bar and core and flexibility. And it's because of, believe it or not, the vision board and the planning. If we just talked about, I want to be a starter, that wouldn't get you there. But we broke down all the fitness goals for both of us and found a way we can actually work out together, which also involves him having on a 40-pound vest,
Yeah.
because that's our equalizer. Because if we're going to go run, he's got to have a 40-pound vest on or mommy can't keep up.
Yeah.
But,
Nice.
it's
Man, he's gonna
it's
be tough.
great. Absolutely, absolutely. But that's all because of the planning and what really matters with my time and what really matters with my money. And I know football tickets are like blowing money. Believe me, I don't just blow a lot of money, but I blew money on something important.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was exciting for me.
Yeah, and it's another good example of like how planning allows you to be spontaneous, right? Like you didn't know what it was
Yes.
going to be used for, but you just knew that there was going to be something you wanted in the future, and you didn't want to have the guilt or the weirdness or
Uh-huh.
having to find the money for it. And again, that is a great thing to do in business and in your personal life. We had that up for a discussion on our strategic planning about cash reserves for each business we have. We've got 4 different ones that we're running right now. And, when you're running different businesses that are all owned by one, overarching company, sometimes you end up sharing funds and stuff like that and services. And like at some point you've got to, really make sure that you're assessing each opportunity and minimizing risk for each business. So we were talking about having certain money just saved up, saving like 2% a month. Every payout or whatever goes into this kind of like envelope, so to say, because we know we're going to have this problem. in the future. Like keep staying in stock is a good example, right? That everyone should be able to identify with. Like you always want to, if you can have some cash reserves for, that time that your product sells 10x, and now you've got some money to buy more right away and get it in. It's a great thing to be able to do. And again, it's a skill. Like it's something that seems like, oh, duh, like why wouldn't I do that? But I think us and myself, and like I've seen other people in MDS, you just lose sight of that stuff somehow. And I guess we could chalk it up to like what we said earlier, the hustle and bustle of day-to-day living kind of makes you stupid sometimes. You're just like,
Well, and
you just completely miss something.
this is still a relatively new business model too. I mean,
Yeah.
for so long, companies have based their cash reserves on payroll.
Yeah.
How many cycles of payroll do we want to have in the bank? Because that was their largest single expense, or maybe it was payroll and plant and equipment if they had rent, fixed expenses. It was all around fixed expenses. Sure, there are consumer goods companies that probably had it around manufacturing runs, but it's so different with Amazon because of the way that inventory sells and because it is even more highly seasonal than most consumer goods, which are going in a grocery store, people buying them all the time, going in the Walmart, people buying them all the time. So, because of that, I think it's been really easy for Amazon businesses to not factor that in as well as they should. And as long as they can pay for their fourth quarter inventory, they think they're cool.
Yeah.
But I think it's great to have that cash reserve because the cash reserve, what most people don't realize is that is for success and failure.
Right.
The
Yeah.
cash reserve is
Yeah.
there for failure in case you're not selling your inventory and you do have people to pay. And the cash reserve is there for success because if you don't have enough cash, then you're not going to be able to grow that BSR and expand your market. And, Amazon is so hard. You can literally never make a dime off of it if you're trying to grow. And that's what makes it so challenging. That is a new model. That is not something people have been doing for 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. I've had some success realizing that recently as I've really put a lot of thought and energy into planning. You end up reading books to try and become better at business that unfortunately are based on an old way of like doing business, right? Like you said, Amazon's new. There's a lot of new things happening and it's happening really fast and it's tough to keep up with. What I've come to learn is that I've got to have a little bit of confidence out here where there is no one to really look to, and you just got to start making stuff up and see if it works. And hopefully, when you check in, you're like on track to your goal. You know what I'm saying? But the one thing that's not different is that planning. Like the better you are at planning, then you can really know, okay, I'm out here doing some new things never been done before, but here's how I know I'm on track to where I ultimately want to be. And boy, I mean, there's a lot that goes into that because it's ultimately up to you. What do you want for your life and what do you want for your business?
And it doesn't matter how badly you plan. So when I don't mean how badly you try to plan, I mean how badly you miss. I
Right.
think so many of us get afraid to plan because we're like, we're not going to hit it anyway, or it never goes the way I think it's going to.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter because if you don't have a plan and try and work to that plan, then you're never going to figure out then it becomes a matter of adjusting. And if you do it enough times, your adjustments become marginal instead of total right turns
Yeah.
or turning
Yeah.
back the other way. And it becomes marginal over time. So that's a really great message is that just because your plans are never correct, it doesn't mean they were wrong. It
Yeah.
just means you're learning, as you just said, Nick, you're learning to plan in an industry that is still learning to plan. So you're covering new ground and you're covering new ground for your company.
Yeah, man, I keep hearing everything my executive coach has been saying all year, and then I'll say one more, and then I'll stop. I promise. But she said like pilots, right? She said like the flight plans. I think they only go to plan like 18% of the time or something, right? But they have to have those plans. They still have a checklist they go through, every time they fly. They've got all these checks and balances and measures in place, but they hardly ever still go to plan. And they just have to be there to course correct. And that's really what the pilot's job is to be there to course correct. And you can't be good at I think there's a lot of other stuff that comes into there. You can't be good at course correcting if, you're trying to do everything in the business, right? So that's where you really got to have a team and some operational procedures in place, somewhat, if you really want to either grow your business to like significant revenue, or maybe you're in it for like the lifestyle, right? And you want to be able to do things with your kids, go travel, whatever it may be. I think you need those. You need those types of things in place to get there.
So there are 2 chapters in the book dedicated to SOPs and then how to outsource those SOPs once you've built them.
Nice.
And you are dead on, because it doesn't really matter if it's a lifestyle business or a revenue and growth focused business. Either way, you've got to have team members, or you're always going to be limited by yourself. And also, once you get a certain set of skills, it makes no sense for you to use your $500 an hour skills to answer customer service messages or to get frustrated and angry. There are things in everyone's business that make them angry. Like, you may be someone who gets mad because you don't understand accounting well enough to do your own books, or there's nothing wrong with that. Or you get mad at customer service messages, you get frustrated by reviews, you have a particular manufacturer who makes you want to beat your head against a wall. There is no reason for an owner to continue to do the task that makes them upset all the time. It's once you can let go of those things and either completely change how you do it or outsource it to someone else, it will change your life. Because I've had those tasks in my business that make me sad or angry. just admitting it. I smile a lot when I talk to you folks, but sometimes I got some anger in there about some things in the business. And though I'm such a happier person, I have struggled with hiring a personal assistant for years because I was unwilling to let go of some things. And this is in Riverbend, not in my Amazon business. All that's outsourced, but in Riverbend. And a few months ago, I found this personal assistant who is magical, and she has completely changed my entire life. I am a happier person. Some days I just want to skip around the office. Today she brought me this detailed plan that is like on top of the marketing plan we already have for this book. She brought me an additional plan for all this follow-up and all this seeding of things she wants to do, and she just came up with it all herself.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
And I wanted to weep, because all these years I've struggled without her, and why did I do that? So and I can give her, you just have to find the right person. Yeah. And then you build an SOP and they take it and go. And that is what she does. She's amazing. So if y'all have been holding back, believe me, and she's a VA from the Philippines. She has beautiful written and spoken English, and none of you can have her.
Yeah. Nice. Well, congrats, because that's a good find for sure.
It
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've definitely dished out some great strategic planning advice, and we didn't even plan on that, but hey, it's coming up on the end of the year. You guys needed it, so you're welcome. All right. But we're going to dive into some specific stuff that like Lesley gets some really good insight into, just because of what you do at Riverbend. And I've got a couple things you mentioned here. Brand registry suspension. So we'll talk a little bit about what you're seeing and how you can run into issues just by using it the right way. We've also got that you mentioned storage fees may be going down. I'm definitely interested in that, but I don't want to get my hopes up. And inauthentic claims are back, and bin checks at warehouses looking for offers that might involve review abuse. So Lesley, I'll let you talk on some of these things that you mentioned and how we can, stay away from them, prepare for them, whatever you think's best.
Well, let's get started with brand registry, because this is something that is supposed to be your friend, and Amazon is very quickly turning it into your frenemy. So I know all of you MDS folks probably have brand registry, or have a pending brand registry. You want to get brand registry. It's a wonderful tool. One of the best things about brand registry is the report a violation. So you can very easily go in, and when someone's violating your copyright, your trademark, they're listing counterfeit products on your listing, you can report them and hopefully get them taken down. I don't know what Amazon is doing and why this has gone so wrong. I have more clients than I can count right now who have lost either all of brand registry, or they can't add a brand, or they can't add users, or they can't add ASINs, or they can't report a violation because Amazon says they've been abusive. Now, there's two reasons this can happen. Three. One is you were actually abusive, and that means you're making false complaints. That's usually not the thing, though, not with the good people that I work with. Number two could be that someone has like admin privileges on your brand, like an agency or someone, and they've also got privileges on other brands, and they have been abusive on the other brands. Or someone else has been abusive on it's like this terrible spider web. So, my recommendation at this point is to keep a very tight grip on who has access to your brand registry. Because if someone, even that you trust or think isn't going to do anything wrong, if they also have access to other brand registries that have abusive people on them, that can take you out, which is so screwed up. And unfortunately, since all of this is relatively new at Amazon, the appeal process is terrible. Frontline never reinstates. Never. Maybe I've had one out of the 30 that I've worked on in the last few months. One that Frontline reinstated. All the rest goes through executive escalation. Some of them take months. So lock it down of who you let on your brand registry. And then the third reason you can lose these privileges is Amazon is suspending just for using it correctly. So, quick example: seller made 2 complaints of copyright infringement 2 years apart. Okay, that's the only time he's ever made a complaint. They were 2 years apart. In both cases, the seller that infringed his copyright removed the infringing image and apologized to him. Okay, Amazon took him down for being abusive. I'm still appealing that. I have been for 2 months.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's insane. Anytime, so my best advice is, if you are using report a violation, which you should, especially if there's counterfeit offers on your listings, document the heck out of all of it. Make the test buys, do the unboxing video, like the influencers do, but not in the fun, happy way. Do an unboxing video where you show the package, you open it up, you're showing what comes out, you have all the documentation of exactly what has happened. If you have any correspondence with an infringer, like that client I was talking about with the copyrighted images, document it all. Keep everything, screenshot everything to prove that you weren't doing anything wrong.
All right, yeah, and I know I've had like some funny stuff happening with brand registry on my end. I haven't had that happen to me, but Ro, who's a member, actually had a big problem with it and had a lot of like back and forth messages as to like why and like how to like properly navigate it. But yeah, they're like, I don't know what's caught. It seemed like something changed like way up, right? And now Seller Central has this SOP, and the people way down here, they just follow the SOP, right? Like that's all they do. That's my guess. And I think something has changed like at the maybe federal level or something when it comes to like enforcing intellectual property. And now Amazon's taking it more seriously. I don't know, but like, that seems, that's like the people who could put the squeeze on Amazon is like the federal government, right? Like there's not very many people they listen to. But man, like with supplements, if the FDA rolls something out, then Amazon's going to put the squeeze on you. And I think that this is some kind of what's happening with intellectual property. So yeah, be careful with that because you don't want to lose that for a long period of time and have to deal with this nonsense.
Yeah, there's some black hat stuff going on too. I've had
Yeah.
2 cases now where one of the infringers said, "If you don't retract your report of violation against me, I will make sure that you lose your reported violation privileges," and golly gee if that didn't happen.
Yeah, yep, and then there's that too, right? Like, you still got that side of the that side of the table to deal with. Oh, man. Alright, well, what's up with storage fees? You mentioned those might be coming down?
So I have some crazy hot rumor gossipy stuff, y'all, but it's really good stuff that we all need to hear right now. Because fourth quarter storage fees this year were insane.
Yep.
And just to throw this out there, what frustrates the heck out of me is Amazon actually overbuilt its storage. They're out there trying to sublease facilities. They actually have too much space for a change, and yet they still did this. So,
Okay.
anywho, apparently they had a whole lot of focus groups and some seller feedback sessions. And some of these were with extremely large sellers and big brands. And those folks proceeded to rip Amazon's heads off about the storage fees and say, look, you've created this no win situation. We can't drip inventory because we can't trust you to actually receive it appropriately during fourth quarter. You're not going to receive
Yeah.
it fast enough. So then we have to send it all in there, and then our storage fees are hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, which is insane. So you've
Yeah.
created this no-win situation. Apparently, the conflict was so huge with many large brands saying that they are not going to use FBA anymore. That they have been promised that there is going to be a revisiting of fee structure for 2024. Now, if that happens, it would be super amazing. This is from rather highly placed human beings that I'm hearing this, so I'm really hoping it is going to happen.
Nice, nice. Well, me too. I know, a lot of sellers, obviously it's hard to deal with that, but the cost per clicks on PPC as well, that's been going way up, especially with some new like UI stuff they've done on the advertising console. It's like it's a lot easier to raise bids based on Amazon suggestions, and it seems like things have really just crept up a lot since that rollout. And then of course you've got this time of the year, but honestly it's a squeeze any time of the year. So it'd be nice to get some relief on either one of those. Um, and then, yeah, you said inauthentic claims as well. What can we do to protect ourselves from those?
So, y'all, back in the day, I've been writing appeals for 100 years in the Amazon world. So, back 18 years ago, when you got suspended, pretty much the reason you got suspended was inauthentic. And then they stopped inauthentic account suspensions and they would only do ASIN suspensions for inauthentic. Well, inauthentic account suspensions are back. Um, and what's really challenging for a lot of private label folks is that they don't always have good invoices. And so it behooves you to set up a system right now, today, that if Amazon asked you for your invoices, you can pull something out. So if you're the manufacturer of your product, that can mean your contract manufacturer, but it can't say that it's a commercial invoice. You need to get your manufacturer to send you invoices in the format Amazon wants, like right now, and have them on file. So they need to be standard invoices that show they are paid with a balance of zero. And
Okay.
your contract manufacturers, they want your business. They're going to do this for you. You just have to get it set up where
Yeah.
every month or every manufacturing run, you're getting this magical invoice that says the ASIN, have it in the description, product description, the ASIN, the correct quantity, balance of zero says that you paid it. Also, know that you can get your proof of payment quickly. So, for example, if you do wire transfers, know where you have those records. That's how most people pay. If there's some other electronic form of payment, you want to show a payment that's the same amount on that invoice so that Amazon believes it's real. Now, if you're actually doing the kitting or the manufacturing of your product, there is a way around this. You can give Amazon the inputs. So once I had a client who is a candy manufacturer, and they made those horrible candies called Boston baked beans. They're peanuts with this terrible red candy coating on them. If you love them, I'm so sorry, but they're. Ugh. Um, so, so what we did was we literally sent Amazon an invoice for peanuts, for sugar, for corn syrup, and for labor and red dye, I think. So we showed like timesheets and red dye because they'd already gone through this several times with Amazon before coming to us. Amazon wasn't accepting anything. So we're like, here's the recipe, here's our invoices for the ingredients, and here's our time cards, and they reinstated it.
Okay.
So just be able to prove that you bought stuff and you paid for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good old Amazon. Any weird like file type things? It's crazy that I even have to ask this, but like they won't take a JPEG, but they'll take a PDF. I mean, I've had that happen before.
I always prefer PDF.
Okay.
Um, don't edit the PDF ever. Ask your manufacturer to edit the PDF because
Yeah.
they'll figure it out.
Right.
The one thing that you can do is if you have a PDF that has a whole lot of line items and you're trying to point out one particular line item, it is okay to highlight that, put a box around it in a different typeface, like in red, so it's obvious you're pointing instead of trying to edit. To say, ASIN, B001, blah, 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 blah. As long as it's clear that you're labeling it for their convenience. So
Okay.
we do annotate all invoices we send to Amazon that way, but it's always in red lettering and highlights, yellow highlights. So it's
Okay.
clear that we're trying to be of assistance, not that we're trying to edit.
Right. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. And last one, you mentioned bin checks at the warehouses are happening to see if you've got any offers for reviews.
Yeah, so for a long time, I think folks thought that if they put an insert in a product and it was in the box and the box was sealed, they would be safe from Amazon knowing that there was a card in there saying, give us a 5-star review and I'll send you a free product. Amazon's doing bin checks now. So some of these are based on customer complaints, some of them are based on randomness, some of them are based on appeals. So, for example, a customer complains or a competitor complains, and so they suspend your ASIN and they want you to do something about it, and they will actually go out there and open the box and look. But they're also randomly opening boxes, especially in certain categories. You already know what one of those categories is, Nick.
Yeah, supplements.
Supplements. Because that is the number one category for these shenanigans. It's like top of the list. It's also so easy because people, it's a lot of times it's just a bottle in a box, or they put it on the label on the top of the bottle, but they're actually looking at the warehouse. And in cases where they find it, here's the really bad part. Let's say you get suspended or you get a 72-hour, we're gonna suspend you, give us a plan of action. And so you give a plan of action of how you're never ever going to do the bad thing again. They'll say, remove all your inventory because we
Oh
went and
man.
looked in the warehouse
Yeah.
and we see that you have this, please give us a 5-star review for 75% off or whatever. They see that in the products and they will make you remove all the products. So then you know what happens when you remove the products, then there's a delay in how long before you can send in new product. And first, all the removal orders have to be executed. So you can end up with no stock at Amazon for 45 to 90 days.
Dang.
Don't do it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Figure something else out.
They're really trying to make it prohibitively expensive to make those requests in that manner.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all for kind of leveling the playing field on Amazon. Like if they can make things, I think that's the hard part is they have these rules that they want you to play by, but it's tough to enforce that across the board. So what you end up with is, some accounts get shut down and some don't. Some ASINs get down and some don't. So, every time I hear something like that, there's a part of me that's like, oh, that sucks. But then there's a part of me that's like, well, at least they're trying to level the playing field. Because I'm a fan of that as well. If everyone can just kind of play by the same rules and know what the rules are, and those that don't play by the rules, end up dealing with consequences at some point. I think it plays out like that anyways. It's just a bit of a longer cycle.
Yeah, I couldn't
Amazon
agree
eventually
more.
catches up.
Yeah, unfortunately, I personally know a few different brand owners, and they are all in supplements, who have permanently lost their very lucrative brands, and
Yeah.
it's because they did it multiple times. In
Yeah.
those cases, it wasn't like they did it one time and oopsie, learned my lesson. It was like, 3 times later, and so it happens. My biggest concern right now with the level playing field is that Amazon is not enforcing equally across borders. Um, that is a huge problem. I think it's going to continue to be a problem. So that's what has my hackles up about Amazon these days, is unequal enforcement for sellers of different nationalities.
Oh yeah, that's not good. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely not. um, well, yeah, I haven't even really heard about that happening, but it's not surprising, and yeah, it would suck to deal with that as well. That would be terrible, actually. That'd be
Well,
really
and
bad.
in some of those cases, we're actually relying on government agencies, because I've got products in health space, beauty space, and in home goods that are regulated products,
Okay.
regulated by Department of Energy, regulated by FDA, um, where there are overseas sellers who are actually violating the law, because they aren't selling a product that is legal in the United States. It has certain requirements. And so the US sellers are really suffering because you've got sellers from overseas selling a cheaper version. Why is it cheaper? It's
Dang.
cheaper because it doesn't meet the legal requirements.
Yeah.
So we've had to do a combination of going to government agencies and then telling Amazon we're going to government agencies. And then that's put a little fear in them and they actually moved. But I think long haul, that's going to become the biggest problem for US sellers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just speaks to why someone like you and Riverbend can be so helpful for these things. 'Cause you guys know, what buttons to push on that end when Amazon's doing something that seems unfair. And I know that's one thing that you guys do best. You're dealing with one of those scary scenarios where it's really impacting your business, and there's some black hat kind of like grayish stuff happening. You guys really seem to know how to handle those things. I've seen it happen time and time again in MDS, and we've used you guys a couple times ourselves. So if you're dealing with any of that stuff, I would just go straight to working with Riverbend. Honestly, that's what I always tell people. So yeah, Lesley, thanks for coming on again. Thanks for sharing everything. Again, I really enjoyed chatting about like the strategic planning stuff. That was cool that you were working on some of those same things as well. So yeah, good chat, and let everyone know where they can find you if they're looking, for more information. And I imagine we can find the book on Amazon. Is it already out there?
It is. It's already on
Okay.
Amazon. If you go to theamazonincubator.com, we are putting a form on there for pre-orders where you're going to get some bonuses to download, which is super awesome. Because all I want for Christmas is to actually hit top 100 business books on
Yeah.
Amazon. No, so I would love to have that happen. It would be super exciting for our community. You can also find us at riverbendconsulting.com. Very exciting. We have a form on there that you can fill out. We also have the phone number. You can call
Nice.
us. People answer the phone. They talk to you about your problems in real time. And that way we can either tell you if it's something we can deal with and help you, or if not, we've got so many partners, just like MDS. We'll find someone to help you find someone who can help you with your problem. And then over on LinkedIn, also, if y'all want to hit me up on LinkedIn at Lesley Hensel, you can DM me questions anytime. Always happy to help my MDS pals.
Right on. Thank you, Lesley. Talk to you again
Thank
soon.
you.